Okay, we're not doing that. At any rate, welcome to the first speedway of Spyro the Dragon, Mushroom Speedway. The speedways have been expanded since Spyro 2. Now we have time attack, racing, and we can exit the level from this menu. I do like how the menus are organized in the speedways here because you can take your time and choose the options when you're ready. It's also better for a Let's Play, so yeah. At any rate, because the races are a new element, we're actually going to do the race first. At any rate, so in a race, you have to fly through all of the rings, and the red dots can help navigate. But here's the thing about races in Spyro Reignited Trilogy. Well, Year of the Dragon Reignited Trilogy, but you get the point. So in the original Year of the Dragon, there was something called automatic challenge tuning, I think it was called. Basically what this means is that if you're doing poorly in the game, the difficulty will automatically be reduced to make it easier on the player. Something that I rarely noticed outside of the races, I think, when I originally played Year of the Dragon. But at any rate, and if you're doing really well, the game will automatically get more difficult to make things less boring, I guess. However, in the Reignited Trilogy version, I'm assuming in an attempt to make all of the games more equal and uniform, they decided to omit the automatic difficulty tuning, instead opting to have usually the most difficult version, since even the most difficult was usually not that hard by Spyro game standards. Or maybe a little harder than Spyro, depending on who you ask. But anyway, all of the speedway races are automatically on the most difficult setting in this version of Year of the Dragon, Reignited Trilogy version. Which means, even if you were really good with the races in the original game, you may struggle here because chances are you only ever dealt with the normal difficulty of the race. I doubt people were that bad to deal with the easy version more often than not. Maybe with the last speedway race, but these earlier ones, I doubt it. But for this race, even this first one, you have to be near perfect. I made a mistake there, so I'm probably going to mess up the race. But yeah, the races are automatically on the hardest difficulty. There are a couple of exceptions where it's actually the easier version here in Reignited Trilogy, and I'll be sure to point those out when they become relevant. Oh my god, I can't believe I made it. So you can make one very minor mistake and still make the race, I guess. Honestly, I'm shocked I was able to make it out of there. So, that's going to be the only time I show off a race on screen in this Let's Play, because all of the races are essentially the same thing. The only difference are the kind of racers you'll be dealing with. And I can easily mention that while I'm doing the obstacle course, because that is something I will be showing off in all of these speedways. I will be showing off the obstacle course, and there's also a secret mission with Hunter that you can do. You need to track him down, just like in the Spyro 2 speedways. So this time when you do an obstacle course, Sparks will give you a basic outline of the obstacles you should be doing in a certain order. This is the easiest way, but not necessarily the fastest way. But since you no longer have to worry about completing the obstacle course in a certain amount of time for a skill point, and honestly, the time limits they give you just for completing the obstacle courses normally is more often than not pretty generous, it's usually not that big of a deal, to be honest, which is good. So yeah, look forward to me showing off all of the obstacle courses so that it's at least consistent with the other two Spyro games that I've done Let's Plays for. Because the original Spyro, all of the flight levels, they were only obstacle courses, and Spyro 2 had the obstacle courses and the secret Hunter missions. So by omitting most of the races, yeah, we've achieved a really good consistency here. But, I mean, yeah, that and the race, some of the races can go on for a while too. So, I think this is a really good compromise that we've settled on here. Now, just because the obstacle courses aren't terribly hard doesn't mean that they're terribly easy either. As you can see, I was pretty flawless almost with that run, and I still beat it with only like a 6-second grace period. So, at any rate, now we're going to track down Hunter, and I recommend redoing the obstacle course because if you try to track down Hunter while you're doing one of the races, well, it's probably not going to end out pretty well for you. And just like in the other Spyro games, when you redo an obstacle course, the time limit won't be counting down. It'll just keep track of how long you're in the actual obstacle course.
Whoa! A bunch of sheep and flying saucers just came out of nowhere and started blasting up the race course. Looks like I'll have to hop in my plane and teach him some manners.
Okay, so I'm going to say what I need to say about the mission now, because while I'm actually doing this mission, I will need to be quiet for concentration. The goal of this mission is to destroy all of the sheep UFOs, which are actually returning from the level Metropolis in Spyro 2. But this time, you're using Hunter's plane to shoot them down. You'll have an acceleration button, a firing button, and I think a brake button, but I'm not too sure about that one. What you want to do is you'll want to constantly be boosting unless you're doing a turn, in which case you may want to cut the brake in order to make turning better. You'll want to keep going back and forth in the middle of the area, watching out for the projectiles that the sheep shoot at you, because one shot and you gotta redo the mission all over again. And that's one reason why I'm going to be quiet for concentration, because I usually don't do this first try, and when the mission starts, you need to move out of the way quick, or you will be shot down if you don't move. Alright, wish me luck, guys.
Look out, sheep! Here I come! Check it out. The squad leader had abducted this egg.
So that only took 2 tries, which I consider to be really good, honestly. Obviously, I edited out the first failure, but... Alright, so once you have 14 dragon eggs, we almost have twice that amount now, but 14 dragon eggs, and you will have enough to reach the next level, Seashell Shore. I kind of have to say it like that because, good lord, that can be a real tongue twister, let me tell you.
Yay! My portal is working. I'll see you at the beach.
Hard to pronounce name aside, this is actually my favorite level in Sunrise Springs, so I can't wait to dive in, so let's just go ahead and do that. Alright, so welcome to Seashell Shore. I didn't have to pause that time. This level is interesting because it's kind of like Aquaria Towers from Spyro 2, where some of it's going to be underwater and some of it's going to be above ground. I find that Seashell Shore strikes a better balance, though.
While I was gone, my friends borrowed the Rhinox submarine. Then they took it for a joyride. And then they smashed it into a big pile of rocks. Oddly enough, the Rhinox failed to see the humor in their actions and stuffed my friends in the jail cell behind you.
So the story is that all of these seals decide to play a prank on the Rhinox, and you have to bust them out of jail, but I mean, the Rhinox are the bad guys, so this clearly isn't the way it should be. It should be the other way around, if anything. So even though they did commit a prank, which would normally be frowned upon, in this case, they definitely deserve to be rescued for their efforts. So we're gonna do just that. Also, come up here for some somewhat hidden enemies, because, yeah, in Spyro the Dragon, the enemies have gems, once again. In the original Spyro, they drop gems as well. But in Spyro 2, they just drop spirit particles, which you needed a certain amount of in order to activate the power-up portals in each of the levels. Pretty sure every level in Spyro 2 had at least one power-up portal, so it was pretty consistent in that regard. But the fact that the enemies didn't have gems meant that every level in Spyro 2 had the same gem count, which was nice for consistency, but you know. As for the gem counts for the levels here in Year of the Dragon, it goes up incrementally. Like, the levels in Sunrise Spring will have 400 gems apiece, but as you progress deeper into Year of the Dragon, the gem count will rise a little bit by 100 gems, but only for the main levels, the main 4 levels and the Animal Buddy level. The Homeworld and the Speedway will always have 400 gems.
If you want a quick summary of your progress in a world, you can press the guidebook button to open the guidebook page for the world you're in.
You're probably wondering why they're only just now doing a mini tutorial about the guidebook, which you've probably been using since the original Spyro and Reignited trilogy, but the funny thing is, in the original trilogy releases, Spyro 2 and Spyro 3 were the ones that had an atlas. The original Spyro didn't have an atlas of any sort, and by extension, they didn't have a guidebook, which is essentially the same thing as an atlas, as far as the utility goes. But, yeah, the original Spyro just had a basic pause screen. I mean, it had a kind of a unique aesthetic, I suppose, but it didn't really have a guidebook as a framing device, if that makes any sense. It's also worth mentioning that the ability to go to your guidebook and travel to another level, as you can see there, that is an ability that you had to wait until almost the end of Year of the Dragon to unlock. And it wasn't an ability you had in the original 2 Spyro games in any capacity. So, in Reignited, they give you that ability from the get-go for all 3 games. Which means that when you normally would get the ability to warp to other levels from the Atlas in Year of the Dragon, you no longer get that ability as an unlockable. For better or for worse, we will address that when it's more relevant. But for now, I just wanted to mention that Year of the Dragon changed things up a bit. The Sparks Treasure Finder, which you had from the start in Spyro 2, in the original versions anyway, the Treasure Finder in Year of the Dragon, you had to unlock that as well. Unfortunately, usually not until you're about halfway through the game. Again, in Reignited Trilogy, they made it so the Treasure Finder is in all 3 games, and it's accessible from the start, which does make 100% runs a lot easier to pull off, and a lot more consistent, because sometimes you can remember where every gem is, but you're still going to forget like 1 or 2, and that will probably lead to some tedious moments, truth be told. So, having the Treasure Finder is just really great, honestly. And that is an improvement for Reignited Trilogy, I can't deny it. And it doesn't really ruin the pace, because as far as the context of the original games are concerned, you're going from Spyro 2, which had the Treasure Finder from the start, to the sequel, which for some odd reason arbitrarily takes it away from you and gates it off until halfway through the game. And now that I think about it, it might be things like that, as well as all of the stuff surrounding the original Black Label release of Year of the Dragon, that maybe soured my perception of a little bit in retrospect. But because of Reignited Trilogy essentially backtracking on some of those, not so great decisions, it really makes me like Year of the Dragon a lot more through the lens of the Reignited Trilogy. And I'm now able to overlook a lot of things that I maybe was not as crazy about with Year of the Dragon the first couple times around, I should say. And I really enjoyed this game when I'm playing it Reignited. Now, though, if I were to try to go back to the original Year of the Dragon, I legitimately don't think I could enjoy it unless it was like a different type of context, At any rate, this is the 3rd Sheila section, technically, if you count her home level. Sheila shows up a lot during the first half of the game, but during the second half, you might start to miss her a little bit, so, enjoy her while she lasts.
Oh, hi, Spyro. Some of my seal friends are trying to take down a Rhinoc fortress. I'm about to go and lend a foot. I love the smell of singed Rhinoc in the morning.
Ah, singed rhino. Sheila probably has good taste, but I don't think we've had the opportunity. Well, I guess if you count all those Rhinocs we flamed with Spyro, I'm sure they got singed in the process. Kind of hard to tell because you usually take care of them real fast. At any rate, Sheila's section in Seashell Shore is it's rather interesting. It's rather cathartic, honestly, because you're basically given a free pass to destroy everything in sight, mostly using her ground pound. So if you haven't been up to snuff on her ground pounding thus far, now is a really good time to get good at it. But yeah, those two baskets over there we're gonna save for after the mission.
Hi, Sheila. The Rhinocs have built a fortress on our beach, and we're going to blow it to smithereens. We just need you to take out all the turrets for us. We're lighting the bomb now, so just make sure to stomp all those turrets before the fuse runs out, okay?
Alright, so the timer's going to start as soon as the mission starts. We're going to need to get this duck because we really need to refill our health, because those shovel Rhinocs, they can be kind of deceptive with their hitboxes, I find. At any rate, though, the secret to this mission is to go for all of the cannons, because when you ground pound the cannons, they will explode, and their explosion radius is, quite frankly, pretty insane, all things considered. So you smash them, they explode, and pretty much everything within a certain distance. And I think the distance of the explosion, the range of the explosion, I'm pretty sure it got buffed here in Reignited, because I've had instances of failing this mission in the original Year of the Dragon. Here in Reignited, though, I don't think I've failed this mission a single time. And I mean, the time limit has always been kind of generous. It's just sometimes when you ground pound, it won't always ground pound everything. And those wooden boxes really do kind of get in the way. But why did that count as a hit against me? We're going to need to get this duck, get some more health, because this Rhinoc is weird. And these Rhinocs... So the Rhinocs got buffed, but that doesn't matter. Still beat it with like a 10-second grace period, so not too bad, all things considered.
Wow, I can't believe I survived that blast. It's a good thing I kept this egg nice and safe in my pocket.
Oh, pockets. So reliable. And apparently explosion-proof. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I do like the redesign for all of these seals. They look so much more seal-like now. Whereas maybe they didn't look as much like seals in the original Year of the Dragon. I don't know, they kind of look like Muppets to me. No, I'm just kidding. They didn't look like Muppets in the original. They didn't look... Not all character models in the PS1 Spyro games look like Muppets in the PS1. Some of them did, but not all of them. So, I mean, let's give credit where credit is due. Actually, I think that's the only Sheila section where there is water. So that is the only time you can see Sheila going through the water. She doesn't seem to swim very well. So we'll just keep that in mind as we head into the last arc of Seashell Shore. We're going to have two more sub-areas, actually. Both of them can be pretty painful. One of them was nerfed, I feel, in Reignited Trilogy. The other one actually might have gotten worse, but it was always really bad. And we're going to do that one first. Before we do, though, we're going to go ahead and clear this area of enemies as much as we can. There's also a skill point for tracking down and killing the duck fodder here. There's only one, and for some reason, the duck is labeled a funky chicken. Chickens, ducks. I hear as far as the meat goes, they taste the same, so I don't know. I prefer ducks in general, not to eat. I just prefer ducks in general. So I don't know what to tell you. I mean, if I can imagine it's a chicken and not a duck, even though it looks like a duck in Reignited anyway, cool. I'm all cool with that because I eat chicken meat pretty regularly, but I have never had duck meat, so I can't really compare. And I don't really have an interest in trying to compare because I find the concept of eating a duck for some reason very weird. Oh, there's actually another one. Huh. So, but I think if you get any one of them, you'll get the skill point. It seems to be just any fodder you nail down in this specific area of Seashell Shore counts for the skill point. It's weird. Alright, so we're going to head in here. This is a hydro tunnel. And thankfully there's only 2 of these in the game, I believe. But, well, you'll see.
Used to have a dragon egg for you, but instead I used it to test our ultra-high-speed super fluidity tunnel. The good news is that it made it to the end of the tunnel without a scratch. Bad news is that there's no way to get it back out now. The tunnel is chock full of Rhinox and floating mines. The only way to retrieve that egg is to defeat every single Rhinox in the tunnel.
Okay, so yes, what the seal says is true. You need to go through the tunnel and defeat every single enemy. If you miss a single enemy, you're gonna have to start all over and they're all gonna regenerate. So I'm gonna need to be silent for concentration and also to edit out any failures. You know, don't have to worry about that. So commentary will resume once I get the dragon egg and also get past the dialogue.
Good fluid dynamic characteristics. From now on, all of our submarines will be egg-shaped.
The controls in the hydro tunnels in Reignited are definitely not as sharp. Like the turning and everything isn't as sharp as it was in the original. I don't know if that's an improvement or not. I couldn't tell you, but considering all of the other improvements that are in Reignited Trilogy Year of the Dragon compared to the original, I'm gonna at least label it a neutral change. Something like maybe the motorcycle in Crash Warped Insane is like basically the same as it was in the original. Maybe slightly stiffer, but I couldn't tell you for sure.
Pluto the Rhinox has challenged us to a naval battle. Our speedboat versus his nuclear shark submarine. If we win, we'll get the dragon egg he's guarding. If we lose, we'll have to spend a month doing kitchen patrol. What do you say? Do you want to take on Pluto? Okay, good luck. Just remember, stay away from the sharp end.
Alright, so Pluto the Rhinox, basically the only real goal of this sub-area, but there are some gems to collect. You can't get most of the gems until after you complete the mission, though. What you're gonna want to do, for the most part, is float around the arena and build up your missile count. I think your missile count has a higher cap in Reignited than it does in the original game. As you can see, I'm building up the ammo count quite a lot, and I don't remember it being anywhere near this high in the original. So basically build up your count and just get in a good position and spam your bullets at the metal shark, and eventually you should come out ahead. Yep.
Ah, that's the first time Pluto has ever lost. You dragons must have a ton of talent. I hope this egg was worth all the trouble.
I made that look easy, but in the original Year of the Dragon, that's probably one of the harder missions. But for some reason in here, I'm able to do it fairly easily. As long as I, grind out the ammunition and time my shots and everything. Like I said, I think it's because they increased the ammo cap. That, or I just never bothered to grind ammo whenever I played the original Year of the Dragon. But keep in mind that that was one of the more notorious missions in the original Year of the Dragon. One of the missions that people complain about online. And, well, at least in the context of the original, I think a lot of the complaints were justified. It's one of those things that probably isn't exaggerated, thankfully. I know, right? Stuff on the internet that isn't glorified hyperbole or exaggeration, those really are the gems you gotta be looking for when you're on the internet, honestly. But, yeah, that's the last sub-area. There's three sub-areas here in Seashell Shore. I'm not gonna get tongue-twisted this time. I hope not. It's happened before. There's like a like a phrase involving seashells down by the seashore that people use, I think, for speech therapy specifically. I don't know. I've never felt like I've had speech issues, but sometimes with the way my brain thinks and the way it comes out of my mouth may not always be in sync. I'm sure I'm not the only one that's like that, and I don't think it's like a major like condition or anything. I think it's just one of those minor quirks that some people have, depending on how their brains are wired, you know? Just not one of those minor things. Okay, we only have 7 gems left. I hope I'm not missing a gem this time, but this octopus has a gem.
My plan worked. That dumb octopus dropped the jail key while he was shaking me. Now I can free my friends. Oh, I forgot to tell you. One of the Rhinox had this egg in his lunchbox.
I'm telling you, man, the cutscene direction changes, the graphical upgrades, the gameplay improvements and tweaking. I swear to God, every time I come back to Spyro 3 Reignited, I just love it more and more. Okay, we don't have to do any backtracking, so that's great. Alright, so we're going to head back to the homeworld because I need to do that before we move on to the boss for much needed context.
Let's head on over to the balloon.
Alright, so in each homeworld, the whole point of you going to the different individual levels is to recruit NPCs to help you build a vehicle to reach the next homeworld in succession. Except for the last one where the goal is obviously to defeat the sorceress. It's like our home base or something. But with 4 homeworlds, we still got a ways to go. Normally I like talking to all the NPCs, but for the sake of the pacing of the Let's Play, let's just hear from our animal buddy friend.
This balloon will take you to a land closer to the sorceress, Spyro. You can also use it to come back here whenever you want to.
Pretty good advice to keep in mind. Just a reminder, before we go to the boss, the Sparks level over here, where the sign is, will not unlock until you defeat the boss and return to the previous homeworld. If you want to, you could save the Sparks level and the backtracking with a later animal friend you rescue to do in the same trip. For example, wait until you rescue Sergeant Byrd and come back to do Molten Crater and the Sparks level, if that's what you want to do. But if you want to unlock the special abilities that you get from some of the Sparks levels, maybe you want to do it right away. For this episode, we're going to be doing the boss fight, and that's pretty much going to be it. We're not going to have time for the Sparks level this time. Hopefully soon, though, because I do want to show off at least one of those in this Let's Play, because I think the Sparks levels are interesting on a conceptual level.
Listen carefully, you stupid girl. I'm only going to ask you one more time. Why haven't you disposed of that infernal dragon?
I've tried to scare him off, Your Highness, but he's just not afraid of anything.
Not afraid? Not afraid? Why have I been training you all these years? Use some magic! Here's a spell book. Whip up a monster and eliminate him!
Kill him?
I don't care what you do, you useless brat, as long as you get rid of him!
Okay, let's see what we got here. This ought to do it.
You can't keep me caged up in here forever. You there, get me out of here. This is unacceptable.
You, come here.
Oh my. What the devil?
Honestly, I think he looked better and more menacing with the rabbit eaters. At any rate, though, it's boss time.
When I heard the sorceress was planning to ambush you, I got here as fast as I could. No worries, though. This wussy green toad will be no match for the two of us.
So, with every boss, your animal buddy that you rescued in the homeworld will help you out in a way. Sheila is pretty integral in the fight with Buzz, though, who's the green toad that we're fighting against. Yeah. She does the ground pound. Normally, Buzz is fireproof, like you can't hurt him with your fire breath at all. But I'm assuming the ground pound from Sheila is what's dealing most of the damage in this context. But yeah, she ground pounds Buzz into the lava, and that's apparently enough to do damage. Buzz will eventually start charging at you, and if you charge him at the same time he charges you, you'll push each other back, but you're not going to push Buzz back as much as you would if your charge wound up being the dominating force. And after a couple hits, he will start summoning a firewall, which you'll need to wait for it to dissipate before you can do damage on him again. And be careful though, because every time you hit him and he comes back to do his rolling attack of doom, I think it gets a little bit more homing every time, to the point where eventually it gets really close. Like during the last hit, I want to say it gets really close. So we're on the last 2 hits, I believe. Now, when he brings up his firewall, he will start breathing fire on you, as it were. What you need to do is jump over the fire, or it's gonna sting, to put it lightly. I find that jumping over the fire is a lot like jumping over the shockwaves that Crush sends at you in his boss fight in Spyro 2. Indeed, Buzz's fight is a good bit more active than Crush's fight in Spyro 2, I feel. Crush's fight, you're doing a lot of waiting around, but Buzz, you really need to be a lot more active and on the ball. But eventually, you will deal the final blow, and Buzz will be melted for good. Anyway, this is going to end this episode, guys. Next time, we're going to be starting on the Midday Gardens. And, that's a pretty good set of levels. I'm not going to lie. Hello to all you wonderful people out there, and welcome back to Let's Play Spyro Reignited Trilogy, Spyro Year of the Dragon. Last time, we finished off Sunrise Spring in only 2 episodes, thankfully. And for episode 3, we're going to be starting off Midday Gardens with a Bianca intermission.
Okay, Dragon. You've managed to survive longer than I expected. But you haven't the slightest idea what sort of dangers lie ahead of you. I suggest you grab your cat friend and whatever eggs you found and hightail it back home while you still can. I'm telling you this for your own good, you know.
It seems like Bianca is displaying a little bit more concern for Spyro and his friends at this point. Which is interesting. It seemed like she was showing some reservations when the sorceress asked her to get rid of Spyro. It's almost like she has compassion for other living beings, which is usually not a trait you find in a traditional villain, or even a sidekick to a villain. So that's pretty interesting. Keep an eye on her as the story continues throughout Midday Gardens. I don't think we're going to be seeing any more cutscenes for Midday Gardens in this episode, because we're going to be finishing off the homeworld of Midday Gardens, but we're only going to be doing 2 other levels to my knowledge. Maybe a 3rd, but because one of the levels I plan to do is actually very large. It's about as large as 2 levels in one, honestly. And it's not going to be Icy Peak over there. That's where the level portal for Icy Peak is. Gee, I'm shocked that a level portal for a level called Icy Peak is found in such an icy cave. Yes. But that's usually the first level people will do in Midday Gardens, because it's another level like Cloud Spires where you don't need to rely on animal buddies to get 100% in, thankfully. So yeah, Icy Peak is a solid first level. We're not going to be doing it first, though, for the sake of the pacing of the Let's Play. We're actually going to be rescuing the next animal buddy in this part, which, if you paid attention to the cutscene for Buzz, you probably already know who it is. So we're actually going to probably do the cutscene. We're going to rescue the animal buddy as soon as we can, but we're going to finish the homeworld before we actually move on to the level proper. We're also going to head up here, not just because there are some gems, but this is the level portal to the level we're actually going to be doing later on in this episode.
Hey, Spyro! Zoe told me that if we hit that doodad up there, the portal will open. Why don't you try spitting this rock at it?
So, you can grab rocks on the ground and go in first person and aim and shoot the rocks, just like a projectile. And this portal will take you to Enchanted Towers. But in order to get everything in Enchanted Towers, we're going to need to rescue our next animal friend. Now I think you're starting to understand how this episode is going to play out. Alright though, we're going to keep going past here. We'll come back to this area in a little bit, but we need to head a little further first. Once again, dive into the body of water, and we're going to get some more gems around this area right here. Not as many here as there were in the other one. There was an egg in the other one, so I guess this is kind of a downgrade, but, well, you gotta be thorough. Just remember, push down on the left stick to use your handy-dandy Sparks Treasure Finder. Especially keep that in mind if throughout this episode there are any instances where I have to jump cut to save time. Climb that ladder over there, and that will be the level portal to Spooky Swamp, which I want to say will usually be the 3rd level people will do in Midday Gardens. But I think it's actually going to be the last one we do. I think maybe 2 episodes from now, but we're going to, like I said, we're going to have to wait and see. I can make guesses and estimations all I want, but it doesn't mean that's how it's going to turn out. And here's the last level in Midday Gardens that most people will do. Bamboo Terrace. Bamboo Terrace is the molten crater of Midday Gardens. You're going to need to rescue an animal buddy from the next homeworld and then backtrack here in order to polish that level off for good. Unlike the molten crater backtracking though, there isn't a skill point in that section of backtracking in Bamboo Terrace, so we're only going to be seeing Bamboo Terrace one time in this Let's Play. When I do the backtracking for Bamboo Terrace, I'm going to be doing that off-screen for the benefit of the pacing of the Let's Play, as per usual. Alright, so we're going to collect those gems, and we're going to head back a little bit because there's a power-up portal for the Super Flame, which you should be more than familiar with at this point, especially if you've been following along with my playthroughs, or if you have experience playing the games yourself. So with the Super Flame, you're going to want to track down 4 flower grass pedestals, I think they're called, and destroy all of them within the time limit, and you will get a dragon egg for your trouble. And there's a rabbit right next to the egg. That's actually kind of funny how that lined up. But we're also going to need the Super Flame because we're going to need to destroy a metal container. And I'm hoping that I can do that while being efficient, because I saw some vases that I missed. And there's also this over here. When you collect a baby dragon egg, though, it will automatically disable your power-up, unfortunately. I'm not sure why that is, but that is a detail that was in the original PS1 game, so maybe they just wanted to be loyal to the source material for that particular context. It's kind of weird, but it is what it is. It's not really a big deal. It seems like it takes a little bit less time to get everything in Midday Gardens compared to Sunrise Spring. Even though I'm pretty sure Midday Gardens is a larger area in general than Sunrise Spring. Maybe it's just me, though. But anyways, with the Super Flame, we want to go over here and destroy that metal container. There is an Egg Thief around here, but apparently, if you have the Super Flame, the Egg Thief despawns, which I think is utterly hilarious. But, I mean, yeah, if you had the Super Flame, you could just go in first person and aim at the Egg Thief and automatically defeat him from a distance, and that kind of takes away the challenge of the Egg Thief thing, you know? But, yeah, we've got some gems laying around here. You can get those while you're chasing the thief. If you get too ahead of the guy, though, he will suddenly dart the opposite direction. So you definitely need to be careful there, for the most part. But, yeah, some of the baby dragons look fat, but it's more like baby fat. And they look adorable as a result. Chubby little dragons, you know? Let's see. We should be close to getting all the gems here. I hope we are, because I really don't want to have to do any backtracking now that we're in this particular area. Because this is the area where we're going to rescue our next animal friend. I really don't want to have to do any backtracking, but it looks like I may have to do a tiny bit over here, and there should be a red gem somewhere around here. Is it over there? Like, I don't want to have to go too far for a stinking red gem. Wait, where is it? Oh, it's in the water? Oh, yeah, it's right over here. Alright. Yeah, sometimes in Reignited, if you go close to some gems, Sparks won't collect it for whatever reason. If you go back to episode 1 of this Let's Play, and Sheila's out, one of the red gems at the end of the level will never be collected by Sparks, and I don't understand why. But at any rate, we're going to go ahead and rescue our next animal friend, Sergeant Byrd, who you already saw in the boss cutscene leading up to Buzz's dungeon. So, yeah, it's known and established. And guess who we have to deal with? Oi.
Ah, my good friend Spyro. The sorceress caught this naughty bird letting off rockets in her fireworks factory, but I'm willing to release him into your custody, provided you pay his outstanding fines.
And by outstanding fines, he means more than twice the amount you paid to rescue Sheila.
What a sucker! That is, it's a far, far better thing you do today, Spyro, than you have ever done. And, well, so forth and so on. You get the idea.
Sergeant Byrd, 90068. Awaiting orders, sir.
I think you'll have to find your commanding officer for that. Hey, what are those things?
These are the latest military hardware. DBX-9 rocket launchers, state-of-the-art.
So why didn't you use them to escape?
Because I have limited ammo, and I wanted to conserve it. For this. Say, where'd you come from? I thought dragons had all been dead for 1,000 years or something.
Well, the rumors of our extinction were slightly exaggerated. We just wanted a little peace and quiet.
Well, if it's peace and quiet you want, you should stay clear of my homeworld for a bit. I reckon I'll be blowing up Rhinox for weeks. Cheerio! I have to train the hummingbirds. They must be in peak physical condition if we're going to take on the sorcerers.
Sir, the situation is this. Yesterday, at 1845 hours, the Rhinox invaded. We defended as best we could, sir. But without your leadership, we couldn't put up an effective resistance. By 1900 hours, the rest of the squad was captured, and the Rhinox had complete control of the base.
So, being that Sergeant Byrd is kind of an army man, or kind of an army bird, I guess you could say, throughout this level, you're going to be hearing a lot of what people could call army jargon, as well as army time, where the time is calculated in, like, kind of a weird way than what you're probably used to. 1800 hours basically translates to 6 p.m. because 6 p.m. is 6 hours after 12 p.m. you see. That's just one example. I could sit here all day and talk about that, you know, army time and all that, because I do think it's cool, but we don't really have time to listen to that sort of thing. So instead, I want to talk about Sergeant Byrd's gameplay and how it was kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Weird, I guess you could say, in the original Year of the Dragon. It's not much better here in Reignited, but it isn't. It's definitely an improvement in some way. You basically walk around on the ground. He walks a lot faster in Reignited than he did in the original game. I'm gonna say that much. And you push the jump button to flap your wings, because penguins aren't supposed to fly, but apparently Sergeant Byrd taught himself how to fly, which I think is really cool. You know, overcoming your own limitations and whatnot. I think that's a really good message to send to the kids, because, you know, Spyro and Crash are mainly kid games after all. But other than the army jargon, there's going to be a lot of accents going on. And specifically, I couldn't tell you exactly what accent they're going for with all of the subordinates of Sergeant Byrd. I assume they're subordinates. I want to say French accent. I want to say French. I strongly feel it's French. But if I am wrong, I'm more than welcome you to correct me in the comments. I know it's an accent, but I never really bothered to exactly pin down what kind of an accent. As for the enemies you'll be dealing with in Sergeant Byrd's base, there are flying Rhinox. These ones actually do have working wings, unlike the ones in Cloud Spires. Yeah, I know. I'm just as shocked as you are. But they're not really very dangerous because they kind of just float in place and they will hit you with a bug net if you get close enough. But the real dangerous Rhinox actually are the ones that are usually on the ground and throwing flower pots at you, because the flower pots sometimes have really good accuracy, and I honestly couldn't tell you why it's like that, but it kind of is. So you just kind of have to deal with it, as it were. Why is there arbitrarily like a black dot in the floor? Oh, there's a gopher there. Okay. I don't think it's usually a black circle like that for a gopher, but alright then. There is a skill point here in Sergeant Byrd's base. This is the first Animal Buddy level that has a skill point, which is going to be a recurring theme for the other ones going forward. Sheila's Alp. I assume they didn't have a skill point in there because of how small the area actually was. Yeah, I'm just going to assume that. Ah! From a distance, it looks like a black circle, but when you get close to it, you see the dirt mounds and all that. Gotcha. Alright. But, yeah, Sergeant Byrd's level is honestly a really great introductory level. We also have these other Rhinox that are kind of like the flower pot Rhinox, but they shoot blow... Well, they don't shoot blow darts. They shoot suction cups, strangely enough. And that deals damage. It would make more sense if it pushed you back rather than doing damage, but no, the suction cup arrows of doom will take away your HP if you're not careful. So keep an eye on that. Now, this isn't a very large level, but in order to get 100% in it, you are going to have to do a good bit of back and forth. Not just because of the gophers, but because you'll have to go back in the level and blow some things up with the missiles to access secret areas, actually. But the annoying thing is you only get 4 missiles at a time. And I'm not really sure why they limit you in this regard, yet back in Seashell Shore we were able to get like 20 missiles before unleashing the onslaught on Bluto the Rhinoc. And I mean, that abuse that I showed here in the Let's Play, that is the hardest, hardest as in hardest for the opponent, the hardest run of Bluto the Rhinoc I have ever done in my life. And Year of the Dragon is a 20-year-old game, keep in mind, and I've been playing it every so often, not as often as the other Spyro games, but every so often I've been playing it, and yeah, I usually struggle with Bluto the Rhinoc, but that time, he was beasted pretty hard, and I'm trying not to exaggerate, but honestly, thinking back on it, I can't describe that any other way. But yeah, there's 3 Dragon Eggs here in Sergeant Byrd's base, just like Sheila's Alp. That's the consistent thing between the Animal Buddy levels. But we have 500 gems instead of 400 gems, because that's how many gems you're going to be getting in each of the Midday Gardens levels, the main levels. The Speedway, which I forgot to show off the level portal, but I'll show it off next episode, because we're not doing the Speedway this episode. But the Speedway and the home worlds of each set of levels always stays consistent at 400 gems a pop. But the main levels are the ones that are going to change. Let me see if I can snipe the gopher from up here. I think I can. And yes, you can. Alright, neato. Yeah, the first person aiming is a lot better in Reignited, so... And you can do it with Sergeant Byrd, like, no problemo. And that is another minor improvement for Reignited for Sergeant Byrd. His missiles, they already had a homing property in the original, but in Reignited, they are even more homing, which does make it a little easier, but not to a brainless capacity, if that makes any sense. So I don't think you have to worry about all that. Another good thing is that when you get the missiles, you can still shoot your regular projectiles while also not wasting your missiles. The missiles are triggered with whatever the square button equivalent is on your controller of choice. For me on Switch, it would be the Y button, I believe. But yeah, missiles, I mean, okay, what Sergeant Byrd normally shoots are called missiles, and what he drops are bombs, but the bombs look like missiles, and his missiles just kind of look like fireballs. Well, in the original game, they look like fireballs. Here, they actually look like missiles. So, if I get you guys confused, I apologize in advance. It's just, you know, it looks like a missile, or at the very least, a rocket. You know, so yeah, that's just gonna be my logic with that. Anyway, you still got to worry about the gophers. If you go too close to the gophers, they will burrow back into their holes, which can make the skill point kind of annoying if you don't have bombs, because that's the best way to deal with them. But as I showed earlier, if you stay a certain distance away from the gophers and aim your shots in first person, you can get some of them that way, but not all of them. Because not all of them are as conveniently positioned as that. And I think when you're holding bombs, going up vertically is a little bit slower. Not a huge deal, though. And, yeah, there's a lot of balloons, vases with balloons laying around, because that's a good showcase for Sergeant Byrd's Missiles of Doom, which, again, are even more homing than they were in the original. So, yeah, and you have unlimited ammo, unlike what he says in the cutscene. I assume that the limited ammo thing is a joke to make the Moneybags scene even more hilarious. The thing about it is, though, all of the cutscenes with Moneybags for the animal buddies, I feel like they get more and more hilarious as you get, you know, closer and closer to rescuing all of the animal buddies. And if you've never played this game before and you're watching this video, it's worth noting we're only halfway through with rescuing animal buddies. We still got 2 more to rescue. So look forward to that, let me tell you. But, yeah, we're actually fairly close to the end of the level. It's just that there's so much more stuff to collect. We already have, like, the main dragon egg, and we just got to deal with the gophers, and we got to get some more bombs. Before we do that, though, I want to head over here. You want to be careful with the timing of your wing flaps in this area with the flamethrowers on the wall, because, yeah. Also, consider this practice because if you backtrack the Molten Crater, you're going to be dealing with a lot of fire. So consider this like kind of a taste of what's to come when you revisit Molten Crater. But yeah, this should be the last hummingbird. Or is it? Oh.
Before I was captured, I recovered this egg from the enemy, sir.
Alright, so this is the side mission, because you get 2 dragon eggs throughout the main course of this level, but this is the optional mission, I guess. Come to think of it, there wasn't really an optional mission in Sheila's Out, because you had to rescue all 3 of her billy goat friends, so it's interesting how they decided to do that for Sergeant Byrd's base, but not a huge deal. And I don't think I need to backtrack, because I think I got all the gophers on the way here, thankfully. Can we get this gopher from a distance? Ah, this guy's playing hardball. Yeah, that gopher is playing hardball with me, so let's see if there's like another spot nearby where we can find some missiles or bombs. I'm sorry, I keep getting them mixed up. Oh yeah, there's some over here. We're gonna do that, and there should only be 1 or 2 gophers left, though. I mean, I don't remember there being that many. Alright, yeah, that's this. I'm glad we got that skill point out of the way. That's usually one of the more annoying skill points. Unfortunately, in order to replenish your count of bombs, you need to use up all the ones you currently have before you get 4 of them again. It's kind of annoying how that is. That is one of the things that they, oddly enough, didn't fix here in Reignited. It's weird. They'll fix stuff like the powers, that sparks its powers, but stuff like refilling your ammo, they're just like, whatever on that front. But yeah, let's see. There might be another balloon hanging up in the air somewhere. But yeah, this episode is gonna feature a lot of Sergeant Byrd because we're doing his level here, and as soon as we're done here, we're gonna be moving to Enchanted Towers, which I showed off the level portal earlier, so you shouldn't have any issues finding it. You really shouldn't have any issues finding any level portals, to be honest. They're all fairly easy to find. It's just some of them might be gated off with a certain amount of dragon eggs. And I don't know how many dragon eggs you need for a lot of the portals in Midday Gardens, because I usually have everything I need by the time I get to Midday Gardens. So, yeah, I couldn't tell you offhand how many dragon eggs you need to unlock all those levels. But at any rate, we're done with Sergeant Byrd's base. So we're going to head straight to Enchanted Towers, attention, and see you there.